the user entrepreneur. Imagine yourself as a user of a particular product or a service. Let us take adventure sport. Say you are an avid mountain biker, however, you realize that the product and services available for mountain bikes in your region are just not up to the standard or the quality that you would like. In some cases, these products and accessories may just not be available. We found that many professionals who are passionate about something find themselves frustrated with what is on offer and decide to take things into their own hands. These are user entrepreneurs.
Hi, I'm Priyamvada here. So thank you very much for introducing me. As an entrepreneur, I would just like to give a quick recall about my the college days where I started pursuing nutrition as my higher graduation study. So that's when I realized that nutrition really plays an important role in everyone's life, and that's the time when I had always been wanting to pursue in the child nutrition space, which is really not in India and being like practiced much in India. So once I was done with my post graduation, I had an opportunity to work with the child hospital for a couple of years. So that's the time when I realized that nutrition really plays an important role, and how it's been like addressed in the hospitals, and what kind of quality is required when it comes to nutrition in children, because it's most of the sensitive areas to actually handle and deal with. So I after a couple of years, I moved out of the hospital, and I again like entered into the child nutrition segment because my passion was towards that. So that's where I felt that you're trying to do something, and then you want to justify in the area of children. So that's where I began my journey. But at that time, entrepreneur and entrepreneurship was never into my mind. Post which I saw that okay, fine, something needs to be done. I mean, some problem needs to be solved in India, which really cannot happen only from one end. So it has to be a collaborative approach that needs to be like taken care of. So that's when I saw that okay, fine, in the urban India population, right now I'm a mother of a toddler. So where I put my son into the school, and the parents had too many concerns about my child eating pattern, and then the child's eating habits, and then my child's growth pattern. So I wanted to solve this problem which existed in every preschool, so nook and corner of the preschools. And that's how I began my journey. And I thought okay, fine, this I just took a plunge as an women entrepreneur.
Take a break, entrepreneur. This is someone who wants to become an entrepreneur but doesn't have a clue as to what sort of venture she wants to start. So this person decides to take a break and be away from day-to-day hassles that one finds being a part of a regular job, and spend some time just reflecting on what is that big problem that they would like to solve.
And I think the first 6 months was one person picking up waste from individual homes.
Okay.
And there's no other thing that I can tell you to make the story any more interesting. But I also wanted to meet customers.
Sure,
I think the whole point was to meet customers every day, go and pick up waste and understand from them as to what is it they are looking for. There is also the existing network also pays people to get their waste, whatever less it is. But there were emails from customers, who would say, thank God that you are here, because people would just take it from my home, break it right outside the apartment gate, and take away the metal tubes of a tube light, because the glass is not useful, but the metal tube fetches him 5-10 rupees. Yeah, and or he would give me some penny or some money, and then he would just vanish. I don't know what happens to that.
Sure.
So by meeting those customers in the first 6 months was the first thing that I wanted to do. And
Okay.
I think, yeah, and since I was alone at that point of time, It was me going and picking up waste and understanding customers' need. Yeah, so couple of other things might have happened over that time is I started meeting some people who would say what is it that they are looking from a problem solving point of view. That you have to ensure that the waste is going to an authorized recycler, and the fact that you are picking it up, we should also know that it is so the point they were trying to connect is this: where does my waste ends up?
Right.
Yeah. So when we say that we work with authorized recyclers, and that is what helped, doing a back end tie up with the recycler, was something that was useful in that period.
Okay.
Yeah. If I would have just said that I'm picking up waste from your doorstep, may not have worked really.
Right.
Maybe one or two customers would have given it, saying that okay, somebody is coming our doorstep and picking it up. But what we found out is that people also wants to see where the waste ends up with. So I think those first 6 months were a complete learning for us.
Moonlighting entrepreneur. This is someone who has some clarity as to what she would like to do. However, before committing to an idea completely, she chooses to work on it part-time. Thus, they would continue to work full-time in their regular jobs or other activities while tinkering over the idea, seeking feedback on the same, and fine-tuning it during their spare time, usually in the evenings or over the weekends. Further, the full-time job serves as a source of either skill or networks and the savings, and it will serve them well when she finally starts the venture.
Brewing for a while. So because the industry space that I've been working in, so although I've always worked for technology companies, it actually took us 2 years to narrow that big thing down.
Sure.
Right? Over many discussions, over many conversations, right? And in terms of in preparing for that, since at least for me, for my sake, I knew that I know that I want to be out and I want to start doing this. So I didn't start talking to my co-founders about a year later. Right? We were talking, but we just didn't talk about anything specific. So once we started to do that, so in that time frame also, I realized that technically, right, I had lost a lot of my technical abilities over the years because you're just in a different mode. Right? You're in a corporate, you're in a job, you have people doing stuff for you. So you move away from the fun side of it for some part, the coding and everything, or the technology, what is a new thing that's there. So it actually lost touch with that. So I started spending a lot of time in honing those skills again. That's the way it was. So that's what I spent the time, right? Trying to preparing myself, right? So preparing myself, preparing the family, talking to people.
Accidental entrepreneur. An entrepreneur who perhaps has never thought of being an entrepreneur, they start with some action and then A leads to B, leads to C, leads to D. And before they realize, they have a functional venture.
Handful of things that sort of came together around the same time. So a cousin of mine who's a lot more adventurous, I would say, chose to step out of work, and then he said, I just want to step back and give some time for myself. And I used to be a member of a library near MG Road, and I used to also buy books regularly from bookstores. So Crossword and Landmark and the regular book retailing.
Gangarams, Blossoms.
Right. And then there is this Elur library which is there, in MG Road. It's been around for quite some time. You go there and pick up books as well. So in one of those trips, I remember I had taken my father along, who's also a voracious reader, and then he was just making a casual comment that if I could get all the books that's there in Crossword, for me to read without actually having to pay for buying these books. If I read it and return it back, it would be such a wonderful experience. And then when I took him to the libraries, the experience, the collection, so he just felt that having a library like how a bookstore looks, access to a similar collection would be a lot more interesting experience for someone like him. And post that, we keep having conversations with my wife on what does it mean to run a business, and what does it mean to do a business plan and things like that. And my brother, my sister-in-law, we keep talking about it once in a while, but somebody stepped out of work. showing the way that that is an option.
Sure,
Somebody was with talking money, my wife and others. Father was talking about books and library, and sometimes just a series of small inconsequential conversations, just start
Right.
leading you on to something.
Right.
So I and my wife keep talking about just how much of money would we be willing to spend if we were to do an experiment like this, and then it starts getting a little more serious. So there is an idea, there is a conversation on money, there is a conversation on what does it mean to step out of corporate life. So these small conversations kind of eventually come together.
So another type of entrepreneur is make a dent entrepreneur. The concept of make a dent comes from Steve Jobs, where he expects ventures to put a dent in the universe, that the life before and the life after is not the same thanks to this venture that the entrepreneur starts. One such venture that we will come across in our course is Amagi. So Amagi incubated at NSR Cell, and then they went out. They are a very large company. They are into contextualized advertisements on television and many other offerings.
So we kind of spend the first 3 months trying to say, what did we do and what did we want to do? So that's just three things came kind of the first thing. Then what we did was we went, looked at 40, 50 business plans.
Oh, okay.
So we didn't look at one or two. So it was not a serendipitous way of getting into stuff, but we looked at 40, 50 business plan, into mobile, internet, We kind of looked at all of those options and said, okay, what's going to be the most impactful in some sense?
Okay.
And the DNA of three of us as founders is that we always want to do something unique and differentiated. So we don't like somebody's already done a business. So we're very clear, we don't want to do commerce because Amazon has already done it, no big deal.
Right.
We don't want to do this. So a lot of ideas got killed because it's already been done somewhere else. So we didn't want to do something. So went through that plan, and then when we looked at television, and we were new to television, we didn't know anything about television. I don't think we would have even imagined that we would do anything related to television in our lives. But at that point in time, television looked very lagardish in terms of adoption technology. We thought it's going to get disrupted any which way. So why don't we be part of the change? Clearly, it suited two things. One is we can disrupt the space because it had very lagardish attributes. Second, it was large enough. It was a $500 billion business. So it's almost $500 billion of business. Clearly a big space that we could go after. Third, we saw in India, there was no targeted advertising at all. So it kind of said, why is targeting not available in a country which is so culturally diverse? So at least the problem was jumping out and saying there needs to be targeted advertising. And why is it not existing?
Each of the above paths has its own upside and downside. The key to remember is that each of these paths worked for that particular individual and her individual context. Similarly, each one of us need to evaluate and identify our own individual context before deciding to choose either one of these commonly occurring paths or a completely different path altogether. To each her own. So in this MOOC, we are going to take an iterative process. So you will have to think up of an idea, go out and talk to people, come back, we'll analyze it together, and you take this input, go out again, and very soon you will realize you're quite deep into your